Good morning. My name is Joe Rosenbaum, Chair of the Legislative Committee, and this is the March 23, 2023 Legislative Committee meeting. Let me first state that the CBA has provided the opportunity for the public to participate via the WebEx platform. When we take public comments, we will begin by taking public comment from those individuals attending the meeting at the California Board of Accountancy headquarters first. I will then ask the moderator to open up the lines for public comment. You will be allotted up to 5 minutes for public comment. I'll now turn it over to establish a quorum. Ms. Reed?
Nancy Corrigan?
Nancy Corrigan, present.
Christian Lotta?
Present.
Tony Lynn?
Present.
Joe Rosenbaum?
Present.
Yin Tu?
Present.
And Evangeline Ward?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, great. Let's continue. Let me read this into the record, the mission statement of the California Board of Accountancy. The CBA's mission is to protect consumers by ensuring only qualified licensees practice public accountancy in accordance with established professional standards. This mission is derived from the statutory requirement that protection of the public shall be the highest priority for the California Board of Accountancy in exercising its licensing, regulatory, and disciplinary functions. Whenever the protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. So now let's first to the first agenda item, and that is any public comment for items not on the agenda. Are there any comments here at headquarters? Seeing none, let's open it up for the WebEx comments.
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, typically lower bottom right corner of your WebEx screen, and type comment or I would like to make a comment in the text field and make sure it goes to all panelists before clicking that send button. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Okay, let's move on to item number 2 on the agenda, and this is the approval of the minutes from the January 26th Legislative Committee meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second? And
Yes, I will second that motion.
a second. Do we need a voice vote or a voice call for this, or?
Yeah, we need public comment.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on the minutes from the January 26, 2023 Legislative Committee meeting? There are none here at headquarters. Are there any on the WebEx?
Sorry about that. Yes, the Q&A is now open. Instructions are on the screen. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside the square and type I would like to make a comment in the text field, and send it to all panelists. For those who are calling in, if you press *3, that can raise your virtual hand. No requests? Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. And now let's do a tally of votes.
Nancy Corrigan?
Yes.
Christian Lotta?
Yes.
Tony Lynn?
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Yin Tu?
Yes.
And Evangeline Ward?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you, everyone. Item number 3, review and consideration of possible positions on legislation. I'll turn it over to David Hemphill, who is our Information and Planning Officer.
Thank you, Chair Rosenbaum. Good morning, members. How are we doing this morning?
Good, good.
This item is to provide the California Board of Accountancy information on identifying legislation the CBA may consider taking a position on. When this meeting's agenda was being prepared, staff had reviewed bills introduced for 2023 and determined at that time there were none which warranted CBA consideration of a position. However, in the last few days, a bill has been introduced that the CBA should discuss and take a position on. So my presentation will be in two parts. The first part will discuss two of the bills referenced in the original agenda item, and the second part will cover the new bill, which was sent out last week, that the CBA can consider taking a position on. So let's start with Assembly Bill 996 and Senate Bill 802. These two bills have components that could impact the CBA. However, staff are going to monitor to see how they develop. Assembly Bill 996 would require DCA entities to develop and maintain a conflict of interest policy that, at minimum, discourages the qualification of any CE course if the provider of that course has an economic interest in a commercial product or enterprise directly or indirectly promoted in that course. Senate Bill 802 would require a board that decides to deny an application for licensure based solely or in part on the applicant's conviction history to notify the applicant in writing within 30 days after a decision is made. This bill is scheduled for a hearing on March 27th, so we will likely have additional information as this progresses. Okay, now for the second part of the presentation, which is to consider taking a position on a bill. So this is Senate Bill 887, which was introduced by the Senate Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee on March 14th. The analysis on this item was mailed to members. You should have received that on Monday. SB 887 contains non-substantive changes for several boards and bureaus within the Department of Consumer Affairs, including provisions approved by the CBA at the January 2023 meeting. Those CBA-approved changes, including those related to deleting language for an advisory committee no longer in use, updating peer review terminology, deleting reference to old practice privilege fees, removing outdated transitional language for the new CPA licensure requirements from 2013, and other non-substantive and grammatical fixes. There were other proposed amendments the CBA did not request, and as mentioned in the analysis, staff have contacted the Senate committee regarding the proposed amendment in BPC section 5076M to either have these changes undone or delete the section as it relates to an old and outdated reporting requirement. Senate committee staff responded, informing the CBA that they should be able to accommodate our request within another set of amendments planned before the bill is heard in committee, anticipated to be in late April. Staff recommend the legislative committee make a motion to take a support position on the provisions of SB 887 relating to the CBA and direct staff to work with the Senate committee to correct the amendments to BPC 5076M as referenced in the analysis. I will now hand it back to Chair Rosenbaum for a possible motion, and I'm happy to answer any questions that members may have.
All right, thank you very much. First of all, is there any public comment? Seeing none here at headquarters, are there any public comment on WebEx?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. Instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click that question mark, type comment, and send it to all panelists. If you called in and would like to raise your hand, press *3 to raise your virtual hand. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Okay, now I guess do we have a motion in accordance with Mr. Hemphill's presentation to take a position on Senate Bill 887 and to work with the legislature to make the needed corrections or the requested corrections? I have one motion, Ms. Tu?
Yes, I would like to make a motion.
And the motion is consistent
With what staff recommendation is. Sorry.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'm second.
Okay, I have a second. Okay, now let's open up for public. Any other committee comments? Do we have any committee discussion on this Senate Bill 887? Seeing none, do we have any public comment?
The
None
Q&A is now
here.
open.
Can we open up the WebEx to see if there are any?
Yes, the Q&A is now open. Instructions are on the screen. If you'd like to participate, click the question mark, type comment, and send it to all panelists.
What was that?
No requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
All right, let's now tally the vote.
Evangeline Ward,
Yes.
Yen Tu,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Christian Lotta,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan. Yes, the motion carries.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hempel, next item is item number 4, update on legislative proposals for the California Board of Accountancy.
Thank you, Chair Rosenbaum. This item is to provide the California Board of Accountancy an update on the legislative proposals approved at the January 2023 CBA meeting. The first proposal contains several non-substantive changes to the Business and Professions Code and was incorporated into SB 887, which the CBA previously discussed and we just voted on. The second proposal is for the CBA's fee increases, which were discussed and approved following the presentation of the CBA's fee analysis at the January CBA meeting. Following the January meeting, despite staff's best efforts, we were unable to find a legislator willing to author the proposal. Staff have, however, been working with DCA regarding the CBA fee increase proposal, and DCA is in conversations with the Senate Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee on fee increases for various DCA boards and bureaus. If the CBA's fee proposal does not move forward this year, it is possible it could be considered as part of the CBA's sunset review legislation in 2024. CBA staff is also continuing to explore a suggestion regarding a staggered approach to increasing the license renewal and initial permit fees made by the California Society of CPAs at the January CBA meeting, and plan to provide additional information on this at a future meeting. In the event a bill is introduced containing the CBA's fee proposals prior to the May meeting, staff recommend the CBA make a motion to authorize staff to prepare a letter of support and delegate authority to the President to approve the letter for issuance. I will now hand it back to Chair Rosenbaum, and I'm happy to answer any questions the members may have.
Do any committee members have questions? Yes, Ms. Tu.
Last year, the previous increase, was it through the sunset review process as well, or did we actually receive legislator?
So the last fee increase was both done via sunset in terms of an automatic increase to the $250 level with a cap at $280, and then staff went through the regulatory process to raise it to the present statutory cap of $280. So the fee increase now would need to go back to the legislature to reset the cap.
That information, if the chair indulged me in making the motion to prepare the letter for, just in case we can get any sponsor for the increase.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion prior to the second? Do I have a second to Ms. Tu's motion?
I second.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any public comment? None here at headquarters. Are there any public comment from the WebEx?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. Instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click that question mark inside of the square, type comment, send to all panelists. If you're calling in, you can press *3 to raise your hand for public comment. No requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes. Okay, let's take the vote.
Yen Tu,
Yes.
Evangeline Ward,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
and Joe Rosenbaum.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5, review and possible consideration of positions on legislation the California Board of Accountancy is monitoring. Again, it's Mr. Hemphill.
Yes, thanks again, Chair Rosenbaum. Hello again, members. There were 22 legislative items on your list there, which the CBA staff are currently monitoring under this agenda item. Although just this week we have added a 23rd to that, which is SB 544, regarding the teleconference provisions of the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. That was just amended this Monday, March 20th. The bills in this category include legislation across a number of issues, from the Administrative Procedures Act, Continuing Education, the Public Records Act, and general spot bills. These bills may develop into proposals that are relevant to the CBA, but at this time there is nothing specific to highlight. As bills evolve into legislation that impact the practice of public accountancy or have an impact on the operations of the CBA, staff will prepare an analysis and the bill will be presented at a subsequent CBA meeting. I will now hand it back to Chair Rosenbaum, and once again, happy to answer any questions the members may have.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to clarify for SB
544.
Thank you, 544. It is specific to continuing to provide those, consistent with the executive order that has allowed us to do the WebEx meetings in the manner in which we've been doing teleconference. So I think there's some changes to it a little bit, but it's an extenuation of the item that is expected to be, that sunsets on June 30th of this year. So once we get back, we'll take a look at it and be able to bring something back to the members at the May meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So can I ask a question to Dominic? Does that mean we will not have the WebEx after June, or will we continue?
So after June 30th, the executive order exemptions that existed during the pandemic would cease. It doesn't mean that we would stop using WebEx. We would still probably provide public participation via WebEx, and if we had members who participated remotely, we would have, in that case, rather than not having to list them on the agenda, we would actually have to list them on the agenda. They'd have to be ADA compliant and accessible. Members of the public would be able to access those locations should we continue down that path.
Well, I would like to, obviously, for me, it makes sense. As board member, we commit to attending the meeting in person and all the stuff like that. For public, additional public participation, I would love for us to continue doing the WebEx. Obviously, having any board member on the WebEx would create a lot of complication, and I, for one, would commit to making sure I attend in person and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Item number 6 on the agenda. Are there any specific agenda items that any of the committee members would like to add for our next meeting?
Chair, I apologize. Could we please get public comment on agenda item 5? Before we move on? Thank you.
Apologies. Let's have public comment on agenda item number 5, which was the consideration of some of the potential legislative matters that the board is monitoring. Is there any public comment here at headquarters? And if seeing none, can we open up the WebEx to see if there are any comments from the public?
Yes, the Q&A is now open. Instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you'd like to participate, click that question mark, type comments, send to a panelist, or if you call in, you can press *3 to raise your virtual hand. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 6. Are there any items that the committee members would like to add specifically for our next legislative committee meeting? Seeing none. Would the public like to add any agenda items for our next legislative committee meeting? Seeing none here in Sacramento, can we open up the WebEx to see if there are any suggestions? Moderator, can we open up the WebEx to see if there are any comments on agenda item number 6?
Yes, I apologize. I was still muted. The Q&A is open. Instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click that question mark, type comments, send to all panelists. If you're calling in, press *3 to raise your virtual hand. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please. And with that, this legislative committee meeting is adjourned.